Standing at the western tip of Africa, Sierra Leone is one of the world's most beautiful countries, and one of its poorest. Now, 5 years after the end of its brutal civil war, the country's capital city, Freetown, is facing a new threat. Urban migration and uncontrolled development threaten the city's resources and the people themselves.
The laws are just in the books. They are not executed. Nobody to execute them. If they don't empower these people, they will destroy the environment, and the environment will destroy the country.
What are they going to do for water? I mean, if this forest is gone, that's the end of it.
It's an environmental disaster. And in a few years, we will see how that comes to pass.
After 10 years of civil war, peace has come to Sierra Leone. But for many people living in Freetown, life remains a daily struggle for survival, with vast slums sprawling around the city.
People living in slums lack security of tenure, they lack access to basic sanitation, basic amenities, usually overcrowded, and the places they occupy, the homes, are actually badly put together. If you to stretch that definition, then it's obvious that over 90% of the population of Freetown live in slums.
Yeah, we have come a long way, but it's been so much sacrifice for so little ground gained. There's no attempt to preserve the old listed buildings. There's no attempt to preserve the old planning which went into Freetown. It's a dump.
Standing at the foot of the city, the Kroo Bay slum bears the brunt of many of Freetown's environmental problems.
Freetown has enlarged. There are many more people in Freetown, so we have a lot more debris. There are no more dustbins all over the place as they used to be. So this is all caused this dumping into the gutters and all this filth coming down. We can see that it's a good breeding site for mosquitoes. We start seeing signs of urban filariasis, onchocerciasis. There's also malnutrition because of, again, diarrhea in the under fives, malaria, worms. This area could be cleaned up, and health education is done. We can actually minimize our malaria incidents in the under fives, the diarrheal disease like cholera outbreaks, and a lot of the other infectious diseases.
5-10 years back, these houses were not in this area.
Okay.
But because they constructed houses, shacks all along the drainage system, and these people, they don't have toilets, they don't have garbage systems.
So this is not only just a dumping site of refuse, also dumping site of waste matter, feces,
everything,
soil,
everything
from the people all living around the area.
Although lack of sanitation is a problem in Kroo Bay, much of the waste comes in from outside, washed down by heavy rains.
This refuse is not from the Kroo Bay community only. It is all from Freetown. Yeah. So yes, we can clean it up, but we also have to sensitize the whole Freetown community not to dump things in the gutter, because whether you clean here up, it will always be coming down. So we have to try to stop that also.
You will remove the garbage from the gutter today. The next morning when you come, you meet another one there. So if these projects are supported continuously for youth to be supported, provided with incentives, then that will help to minimize the problem.
I would recommend that actually the government actually gets some sanitation engineers, some people with the know-how to do environmental health cleaning, to sort of like actually look at this problem, not just for 5 minutes or for the short term, but in the long haul, how it could be cleaned up now and how we could have a continuous process whereby it should not happen again. Of course, improving on the sanitation in Freetown area, because if the sanitation is improved in Freetown area, waste disposal, we will not have all this rubbish coming right down into Kroo Bay. These here are actually a result of all the filth that comes right down from the whole of Freetown area. Because these children are all going to pass through this debris, walk through. You see them holding onto the field for support and climb through. And they're all affected. Does it cause flooding during the rainy season? Doesn't it cause flooding?
That's the major problem in this community.
What she says happens is during the rains, the pieces are actually broken off the huge mass, and they actually come down this way, and because they get stuck in the middle here, the waters all just rise up and actually flood all of their houses all on this side. And she even said that, was it last year? Last year. 2 people were actually killed because of that kind of flooding in this area. They actually have to move from their houses during May and June when the rains are very heavy, because they know their tendency is for the place to flood. So they move up to houses further up, maybe with friends, relatives, and sleep there at night.
The problem of Freetown slums seems set to continue, as more and more people flock to the city from the provinces. The legacy of Sierra Leone civil war means many people see the city as a safe haven.
Normally, in most developing countries, people are moving from the rural areas into the cities and so on. But the case of Freetown, what accelerated the process was actually the war.
Around the hills of Freetown, you see how populated those places are. Those places were not as populated as before. My feeling is roughly about 2 million people in the Freetown area. At least 2 million people.
I think the entire building code has been blatantly ignored. The entire building code, nobody has regard to them. Financial attraction seems to outweigh any modicum of sensibleness, people doing things properly. People wanted to sell the land at any cost, with total disregard to whether there was a master plan or not. For instance, nobody is supposed to build on the beach. But if you go down Lumley Beach, you will find that there are a number of buildings that are, whether they're temporary or not, are being put on the beach. There's obvious environmental problems associated with that.
In the rush to grab land for building, it is Freetown's hills that have been most seriously affected.
This area was actually being advised to be left under its natural land use. When the American embassy came to establish their construction here, we had a massive rush of people who wanted to actually do construction here. And that, of course, has been very indiscriminate. No road construction, no other service provided. When you ask the officials, nobody seems to know the trend of what is happening now. Nobody seems to know who is authorizing all of this sale of land and construction that is going on. There were vast lands that were left as reserves, as catchment areas and water catchment areas and so on. So all these people saw was land that we can live. It's not about forest there or catchment there. It's nothing like that. It's about where can I live.
The character of the site of Leicester Peak has completely changed. It is almost totally without vegetation, almost. The stone outcrop of the hill has been broken to provide aggregates for building construction. And so you have an eroded, denuded site. Some of the rocks will obviously slide down the mountain. There might be landslips. There is now a mishmash of development going on. Everybody needs water. Everybody has septic tanks, and so on. And how these things are going to work within that type of development, which is not planned, is hard to say. Whatever was planned for Freetown did not take into account the kind of population we have now. And that's why we have problems with all the services in this country, all the utilities. They can't cope.
Without proper protection, Sierra Leone's environment is the first victim of this building boom. With no effective sewage system in the hills, the city's groundwater becomes polluted. The position of landfills close to the sea also poses a threat to the environment.
Presently in Freetown we have two dump sites, one at Kingdom and the other at Granville Brook for the east. Those dump sites are wrongly located. They are located within the city limits, they are located in water bodies close to the sea, and as a result of that you would have a lot of contamination of the estuaries, which are very sensitive areas.
Well, over the years, we have been monitoring the creek, and what we have noticed over the last 10 years or more is that the bird diversity has actually dropped. Birds depend on the fish, and the fish breed in those mangroves. And what has actually impacted on this is generally the human activities. Because of the deforestation in the mountain region, when there is downpour of rain, you have all these debris coming down. So siltation has also occurred. You also have building of settlements. People reclaim land to build settlements, and that has impacted greatly on the ecology. Apart from the fact that they deposit a lot of rubbish, they also deposit sewage, and these things do impact the ecology. A lot of people depend on the fish. They depend on the cockle and lobsters that they get from this place, right? If that declines further, obviously that would impact on the economy of the people in the area.
Over here, I see people and they throw away rubbish over here, dirty. You see?
Yeah, I see people and not get dirty box.
So all the one old area, now then they can't throw it in dirty.
Dirty coming here now.
So that means to say, whose side and they leave and they back and they throw the dirty. They not feel the effect of that.
Now where the water full, the dirty they go.
Whose side they go?
They go now they see. Then later back where the water they dry, where the water they full. The dirty, the water they get all the dirty. I did dry now they go out.
But you got to go for us on side.
Yeah, see they go now, they go affect other side.
So we're not busy about that.
No, the people don't care about that because they not get side for go to and government will provide the litter for them can. Yeah.
Government will provide that, but we're on the local community. You know, if you say better, let them get the dirty one side and burn them, or get them, let them can collect them, clean and go on side.
Yeah, it's necessary for let them get it and then burn them. But some people are afraid for light fire because of the breeze.
There needs to be a system of ensuring that human excreta, sewage in general, the deposition of rubbish should be controlled. Government do have very good policies, but they are not being implemented. And I think government should look at those policies, review them in the current phase of the problems we are having at the creek, and then see what they can do. The thing is that if you stop it now, then you'll be able to see future development in terms of restoring the ecology of the creek. But if you don't, then the situation will deteriorate further.
Pollution and soil runoff are not the only dangers Freetown's coastal environment faces. Along the city's beaches, the need for materials to fuel the building boom has led many unemployed people to take up sand mining, destroying ecosystems and damaging waterfront properties. But perhaps the most dangerous side effect of Freetown's growth can be found back in the city's hills.
Yeah, so we've been here for almost 11 years now. The sanctuary was founded in 1995, and this is where it all started. This is the original place where the whole thing started. I think, as you know, with the war situation we had, everything stopped for many years. So I think Sierra Leoneans having this confidence to build back, and they had this confidence to do something before everybody was worried whether it's worth investing here or anything like that. So I think this suddenly there is this thirst where everyone wants to build. People even want to come back to Sierra Leone, those who left. So there is a huge demand for land. If you're going to allow people to build all the way up to the forest boundary, and you don't monitor these forests, because the forestry is very weak on the ground, they're very thin in terms of personnel on the ground, so they won't be able to monitor. So that is going to be a huge problem. Chimpanzees are considered to be highly endangered. Sierra Leone has lost most of its population over the years, because as we continue to destroy the habitats, we are basically destroying the wildlife in it. Sierra Leone has lost more or less 97–98% of its forest cover. There's only secondary forests scattered in here and there, maybe a very small portion of a primary forest around the Gola area. Apart from that, there's nothing left. There's all these people, all this development you see. There is need for fuel wood and energy and things like that. And in a country like this, we don't have power most of the time. Most of this destruction is not done by the immediate village community. Sometimes you have people coming from far away and they have no regard. They just destroy everything, and busloads of charcoal or firewood goes away from the area. That is where the problem is. The local community, I think we have educated them enough. They are not doing it on a commercial basis. If they are doing it for their own use, I don't think anything is wrong with that. I think because that's how they have lived from their forefathers' time. So I don't think we have a problem with that. It's only when you commercialize it, then it's a problem. This is also a catchment area. It's no point opening up all these areas all the way up to Regent, opening it for development. What are they going to do for water? If this forest is gone, that's the end of it. There is absolutely no water. There's no way Guma Valley Water Company can pump water from from mile 13 to Lester Peak here. It's not going to happen.
Without trees, rainwater drains away, causing soil erosion, siltation along the coast, and flooding in areas such as Kroo Bay. But forests also form part of the water cycle and ensure good rainfall. Without them, water simply drains away into the sea. Lying in the hills above the city, the Guma Dam supplies Freetown with drinking water, relying on the surrounding forest to keep it full. With a growing population to supply and the forest getting smaller, the danger to the city's inhabitants is growing.
The dam, the capacity that was set up in the 50s when it was completed was to service at least 300,000 people in the city. Today we are talking about a population in Freetown of about 1.9 million. The capacity of Guma has been sketched. It is the same dam that was constructed in the 50s that we are still operating on.
Right now at my own house, I don't have water and haven't had for about a month, not a drop. And this, are the people themselves in the area come in here and just cut the pipe. And once they finish getting the water they want, they just walk off. They don't have running water in their own compounds, probably. So they just decide to come down here and cut these pipes.
We have limited supply, and yet still people are in the habit of interfering with our system. We have used all the different methods of sensitization We've gone to the radio, we've had outreach programs wherein we go into some of these communities. This is treated water which is good for you, take care of it. You see a pipe wasting, report to so and so number or so and so address. People still do it with impunity. What we are experiencing now, there is a change in what we call the weather pattern in this country. Freetown used to have 6 months of rainfall, intensive rainfall during the rainy season, and we have 6 months of dry season. Today that has changed. We have more of dry season than the rainy season. We have at most 4 to 4 months of rainy season in this country. All those small streams that cause a runoff onto the actual reservoir, the dam, they all cease to exist. They dry up. So no water runs down the hills into the reservoir, the lake. These streams were sourced from the forest area. And when you look at the Freetown Peninsula today, most of the forest covers have been cleared off.
In 2006, a combination of increased demand for water and destruction of the forest cover led to crisis in Freetown, as the rains came late and the Gouma Dam fell to its lowest level since records began. The government was forced to ration supplies, leaving the city's poorest residents struggling for access to drinking water. As the city grows and expansion continues, this situation seems certain to get worse. But the country as a whole is rich in resources and, despite its crowded capital, does not have a high population. With proper management and awareness, it might yet be possible to reverse the damage being done.
Further migration to Freetown is simply not sustainable. This country has a wealth in every single district. So what we have to do is to help people tap into that wealth, help to ensure that in every single district you have the means available, that you have basic social services available, but which makes it very attractive to people to go living back to the rural areas and to make a decent living.
Sierra Leone also boasts incredible tourist potential, with pristine beaches, wildlife and scenery. With proper management, these resources could create jobs while encouraging people to protect the environment.
They used to come to number 2, they used to come to Toke, go down to Turtle Islands, all over the beaches. They used to come and not even touch Freetown, directly to airport to Toke, or to Laka, or to St. Michael Lodge, or...
all these were done by the French people?
All by the French. The French are more into tourism than anybody else, which we know. We have enough to offer, but we do need a help to promote it and put it to a standard. And most of all, we need a good management for it.
Lying off the coast of Freetown, the Banana Islands show how it may be possible to improve people's livelihoods without damaging the environment.
When I first came, the idea was a lot of excitement, that someone has come to help them to develop the area. And so they offered to cut down all the trees and burn the area so that I'd have a nice large empty area on which to build something. Then I tried to explain what we wanted to do was to preserve as much of the environment as possible. Slowly, I think they understood this. Well, by ecotourism or ecotourism, what we mean is a way of developing a place to make it attractive to paying tourists, which enhances the environment and doesn't destroy it. I chose this approach because I think it's the most developmentally sound, and it will lead to both protection of the environment and economic sustainability.
Unlike many other development initiatives, Gary Walker's project draws its support and funding from the people themselves.
The majority of the investors are Sierra Leonean. They're in the UK for the most part. So far, we've created 16 full-time jobs at the guest house. People also benefit because guests come, they want to rent paddle canoes, and they go out with our local fishermen for the day and pay them to. So instead of having to fish all day and maybe make 5,000 or 10,000 leones, they can make 30,000 or 40,000 leones by taking guests out, and the guests are doing the fishing. If the people of the island do not take ownership of this kind of facility and feel like they own it and are responsible for it, when I'm gone, it will not be maintained or managed. And this is a chance to make something that really will last for generations, not just for a few years. So we're dealing with a delicate problem of how do you bring relatively affluent individuals into an area of enormous poverty and allow those individuals to generate income and livelihoods for local people without creating more problems than they solve. I see this as an example of sustainable rural growth in a very impoverished country without damaging the environment that could be replicated around the country. I think the country has enormous tourist potential. The physical beauty of the country is unrivaled in West Africa, I think, and I think anyone coming here would agree.
The challenges facing Freetown are immense, but with the country finally at peace, there are also new opportunities to balance increased prosperity with a sustainable future, to manage the country's growth in a way that does not destroy the environment and jeopardize its people. With these goals in sight, there may yet be a chance to restore the balance and make Freetown the city its people deserve.